Good morning. This is Jim Ware, and I want to welcome you to a very brief Periscope this morning. I'm going to be talking about leadership, a few brief comments about the need to rethink leadership. It's based on the newsletter article that I sent out early this morning to my subscribers. I called the article Rethinking Leadership, Death to Taylorism. As I'm sure you know, Frederick Taylor, who lived in the early 1900s, has been called the inventor of scientific management. He was one of the first people who applied scientific method to work. He studied manual laborers. I think his first subjects were actually ditch diggers. He did time and motion studies and figured out the best way for them to get the job done. He actually wanted to help them. In fact, I think Taylor is credited with coming up with the idea of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. He wanted to help them figure out the best way to get the job done, the most efficient. Later on, he articulated four basic principles of what he called scientific management. Number one, the best way to do something and the most efficient. Figure that out. Number two, match the workers to the job so that they had the skills and the motivation to get the work done. Kind of an early HR recruiting process, I suppose. Third, part of management's job is to monitor and measure performance, both so the workers could be rewarded appropriately and so management could learn from experience. And then fourth, he saw the manager's job as to think and to plan. The worker's job was to do. Very reasonable ideas led to some incredible increases in productivity in the manufacturing world. So why did I say death to Taylorism? Basically, that was good for the production world, that kind of scientific method where the work was repetitive and the same basic tasks were done over and over again. But it's fine for an assembly line and for relatively uneducated workforce. But we all know today work is very different than that. Most of us are knowledge workers. We're constantly exploring, learning, creating, having conversations with our colleagues. No one knows better than I do the best way to get my job done. And in fact, I would do the same job differently than you would do it because I have different talents, different skills, different knowledge, different experiences. Taylorism was part of what I call the command and control culture. Again, it was fine for the assembly line where the manager did know best. But in a knowledge economy, that attitude, that approach completely kills engagement and it kills motivation. Think for a minute about when you were a college student. Did your professor tell you where to sit down to read the reading assignment or when to write the term paper? Of course not. You were treated as an adult who made those choices on your own. But what happens when you walk into the workplace today? In so many instances, there's an expectation that you're going to sit in a particular place. And as one manager said to a former friend of mine, be creative from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. It doesn't work that way. We all know that. I think command and control, that mindset, is responsible for why we have so many bad meetings. That's the topic I talked about last week. Meetings are among the most hated activities in the workplace. Most people describe them as boring and unproductive, and yet they're forced to sit through one meeting after another. John Kenneth Galbraith, the economist, is quoted once as having said, a meeting is indispensable when you don't want to do anything. So we've got to rethink the way we lead meetings and the way we lead our teams. I think a leader's job today is to create a work environment that enables collaboration, that enables active, engaging conversation. Excuse me, and meaningful insights, drawing people's talents out rather than just directing them at what to do. Unfortunately, most of us still worship individual CEOs and decision leaders. Their photos are on the cover of Fortune and Forbes, and we seem to think they are sitting on high making these massive, brilliant decisions all by themselves. Well, they'll tell you that's not true. We know it's not true. My friend and author Rod Collins, I think, said it really best. In today's world with network knowledge, we all have access to all kinds of information. Nobody is smarter than everybody. And we've all got to recognize that. That's true for every single one of us. And if you remember one thing from these comments today, that should be it. Nobody is smarter than everybody. Today's economy isn't about the assembly line, and it's not about mass production. It's about mass collaboration. Your job as a leader is to produce collaboration. So thanks for your interest in this topic. I hope you found this helpful and meaningful. If you want to read more about my views on leadership, jump over to my blog at www.thefutureofwork.net. The most recent piece, called Rethinking Leadership, Death to Taylorism, was just put up yesterday afternoon, and it went out in my newsletter this morning. I'd love to have you read it. I'd love to have you comment on it. Share with me your thoughts, your reactions, your questions. Let's get a real conversation going. I think it would be a lot of fun and hopefully make a lot of difference. Thanks again for taking a few minutes out of your Tuesday morning to listen to this, and I hope we'll have plenty of chances to do this again in the future. Thanks.